In this video, we're going to talk about ways to envision your MAT work, how it might look and be shared. The idea combines two of my favorite ideas, a Sqaure organizer, a way I use to take notes all the time, and a revision idea from Georgia Hurd called 4 Rooms. In Georgia's book, she talks about taking a piece of paper and splitting it into 4s. I'm going to go ahead and fold mine just so I have 4 equal squares, but of course you could just draw a Sqaure organizer. In her idea, she says take something you're writing and then use each box to think really closely about what it is you're doing. So for example, in this box, I might think about questions that I have about my topic. In this box, I might think about perspectives. In this box, some metaphors. In this box, some specific adjectives or imagery. But we're not really doing that. We're thinking about our MAT research. And so we're going to use this idea to think really specifically about our MAT work. If you want to, you can put your topic right here in the center. And then in the first box over here, go ahead and write the MAT presentation, because you know that everyone is going to be sharing their work in their MAT presentation. But I have 3 more boxes. And what I want to do is think about what are 3 other places that I might share my MAT presentation. Maybe it's at a conference. Yeah, I like that one. I really like conferences a lot, so I think I'm going to put that down. I still have 2 more squares. So think about, what are some other places that you might share your work? It can be as small as a colleague that you know that just needs to hear the work. I want you to think specifically about what kind of conversation that might be. Or maybe it's publishing your work in a journal. Maybe it's a blog post. Maybe it's writing it up and sharing it in a letter to somebody, or creating a professional development presentation. So what are 2 other ways that you might share your work? Go ahead and pause me right now and fill out your Sqaure organizer. All right, now that you have all of those filled out, I want you to go ahead and think about who you are in all of these. So we're going to use these 4 to think about some main questions. One of the first ones is, who is your audience? And in this way, I want you to think about 2 ways who your audience is. One of them is, what's your relationship or your connection to them? And that's important because right away, when you're presenting your work, you always want to think about how you connect with them. When I'm with a group of elementary or primary teachers, I make sure they understand that I might have just recently spent time in a kindergarten classroom writing, or that I have a daughter that's the same age as the group of teachers that I'm with. Or maybe I want to talk about how many years I've been teaching when I'm in a room with teachers who are also bringing lots of experience and wisdom. So for each one of these boxes, fill in what's your relationship with every person with your different rooms. Go ahead and pause me if you need to do that. Now, the next thing that you want to think about when you're thinking about the audience is, what is your stance with them? Like, where are you in perspective or conversation with each other? The article that was linked in this module gives you some explanation of these, and I actually love this, and I wish we were together to have this conversation. But it asks you, are you an expert? Are you bringing knowledge that nobody else has? Or are you a novice? You're just figuring it out together? Or are you a brother or a sister or a friend or a colleague where you're sharing ideas? It's actually really important, and your stance changes. So for example, if I was working with a colleague, my stance might be more like a sister or a brother, where we're like thinking together, more in relationship. However, if I'm going to go ahead and present my work in a publication or even a conference, I might actually be presenting myself more as an expert. Now, I know that feels uncomfortable for many of us, but in reality, think of all the work you did. You are an expert. So go ahead and pause, check out that article link if you want to see what those stances are, and fill in your stance for each one of the 4. Now, the next thing you want to think about is, what is it that you care about? And I actually love this one. This goes all the way back to the 4-week when we asked you to think about your core beliefs about teaching. And you really started thinking about, what's your classroom like? What do you believe about students? What do you believe about literacy, writing? What design might look like? Teaching. So think for a moment and brainstorm. What are some of your core beliefs about teaching? And then this is the cool part. I want you to think about, where do your teaching beliefs and research connect? So for example, if one of my teaching beliefs is that students' passion should drive the curriculum, I bet I see that in my MAT research. I bet there's all kinds of student choice. I bet there's all kinds of investigating for students. Or maybe I believe that we always need to write in order to think. And yep, I bet you would find writing in my research. So go ahead and take a moment and figure out, what are your core beliefs about teaching? And then, where do you see intersections between your teaching beliefs and the research work that you did? Go ahead and pause me if you need to. All right, so now that you have core beliefs, we need to go back to our Sqaure organizer. In this Sqaure organizer, I want you to go through each one of them and think about, well, what kind of core belief might you want to present and that would resonate with this audience or this group and stance that you have presented. So for example, I'm in this conversation with my principal or colleague, I might find a core belief that merges, that I know both of us share. However, in a conference, I might figure out that my core belief is something I want to set up as a frame. So I think I really want to make sure that people understand one of my core beliefs is the idea of passion and writing. And that would help me explain the rest of my work. Go ahead and take a moment and fill in this Sqaure organizer, thinking about, what core beliefs do you want to share with us and with each one of these groups. Go ahead and pause me so you can do that. All right, so I want to go ahead and come back here now. And I actually love this next part because I had never really thought about it before. But this is the idea that when you make a presentation, there are actually 4 kinds of audiences that we want to think about. When we think about audiences, the 4 types, and they're listed in that article again, so you can go back and read that. There's 4 kinds of audiences. One kind is always looking for facts, data, the numbers, the references. Those kind of scientist people, they want to know your data. There's another kind of audience member that shows up in our rooms, and that's audiences that want to relate to the topic through interaction. They want to do something with your ideas and your work. That means you want to build in your presentation ways they can interact with what you're learning. Try it. At OWP, we're really good at this, so I know you're already an expert at that. Another group of people in your audience are often people who are looking for reasons for why this might work, or exploration. Like, they really want to inquire into how this idea came to be. What other questions might there be? And you want to leave space for them themselves to kind of like think about the idea and its theory or its reasoning underneath. And the 4th kind of audience is the kind of audience that wants to adapt or modify or create from an idea. That's the teacher lens that a lot of us are in, where we hear an idea and we immediately want to go try and figure out how it's going to work for us. Here's the cool thing. Every one of these audience types, they are all in our room. When we're making a presentation, they're all reading our article or our blog post. So now I want you to pause and I want you to go back to your Foursquare organizer and I want you to think about what will you include from your MAT presentation that would relate to these 4 audience types. I'm also curious as to which one you are. So think about that and we'll check that out. So go ahead and pause me and take a moment and add how are the ways that you will relate to the 4 audience types in each one of these squares. So by now, your square is filled with ideas and thinking and ways that we might understand that we're going to switch our topic into kind of some different visions depending on who and how we're sharing. And now, tomorrow, I'm just going to focus on this one for a little while and really think about what that looks like in structure and organization. So we'll do that next time.